Streaming live on YouTube, 43 podcast platforms, now over 80 episodes, and streaming in 104 countries around the globe. This is the Tech Ed Podcast. I am your host, Matt Kirkner, and we are live from the International Manufacturing Technology Show in Chicago, Illinois. There are a lot of people that have been responsible for this incredible week that we've had here at IMTS, and we are about to introduce you to one of the people that had the most to do with us here, with the Tech Ed Podcast being here at IMTS. He comes to us in the form of the Executive Director of Education for Fanuc America, the largest robotics and CNC company in the world. His name is Paul Aiello. He's a great partner to the Tech Ed Podcast, a great friend, and he is the reason that we are here at IMTS. Paul came to us probably 4, 5, 6 months ago and said, hey, we have this great opportunity. Would you be willing to do it? And we're 21 episodes into a 23-episode week, Paul. And thank you so much, not just for all you do for education, but specifically this week for having us here at IMTS.
Thank you, Matt. Glad to be here. It's an exciting time and happy to join you today.
So you got me into IMTS for the first time. I think it was 2016 was the first time that I was here. Do you know about how many times you've been here?
This is my 5th.
Okay.
So yeah, it's an incredible event. It used to be a 2-week event, so I'm glad it's only a 1-week event.
Right.
Still incredibly long, but extremely exciting and rewarding to be here.
And for some of your colleagues, that actually is a 2-week event, right? So you've got people that are here for, not just here for a couple weeks getting everything set up, but you and I were together in Rochester Hills a few weeks ago, and it was probably a month ago. You were already planning for this show and planning for the big event.
That's right. Yeah, on site probably 3-4 weeks, all in time for setup and also the show. And I think we'll start planning for IMTS 2024 probably in October of 2023.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So all kinds of work that goes into it. I was up at for our listeners, we're in the Smart Force Student Summit, so this is the education-based area for IMTS. Like 12,000 students coming through here this week, which has just been absolutely incredible. There's a huge Fanuc booth up on the main floor as well. I just had the opportunity to walk that. I'll tell you, one of the most impressive things, and I've seen it a number of times, is you've got a Fanuc robot lifting a Corvette upstairs, right?
That's correct, yeah. We have 8 Corvettes being lifted here in the Student Summit.
I know you do, absolutely. Yeah, they only have 1 upstairs. We've got 8 down
That's
here.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Ours are a little smaller.
But I think sending a great message. So one of the photos I took up in the main booth of that robot lifting a Corvette up off the ground, and this thing goes like 20, 25 feet in the air. It's absolutely incredible. But you look at the robot, you look at the control, you look at the teach pen. I mean, it's all the same things that you're using here in the Smart Force Student Summit on the robots here. So it just sends an amazing message, right? The students go upstairs and they see this gigantic robot lifting a vehicle, and then they come down here and they see the same thing.
Yeah, our whole goal is to introduce students to the world of what we do. It's an exciting world of automation, robotics, and it's not a huge hurdle. I think sometimes people think that, boy, this is just incredible technology. It must be such an extensive learning curve to get involved in that. And we try and, dispel some of those myths about automation and make it so that it's enjoyable, it's easy to understand, and that they can do it. And they can do it at a very young age. Middle school, high school, college, students can get involved in automation, involved in robotics, and they can learn this very quickly.
And you've been leading on that. We had Mike Chico, President and CEO of Fanuc America, on with us yesterday, talking about and really giving you and your team a tremendous amount of credit, as you can imagine, talking about your leadership in setting up what's called the Fanuc Cert program several years ago. I have seen you, by the way, when people say, well, can we teach a middle school student how to program a robot? That seems a little bit like a reach. And I've literally seen you at a show like this hand a teach pen to a 11-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid and say, we'll show you how to program the robot. We'll show you how to jog the robot. It really is possible, and it's been made possible across the country and really across North America by the Fanuc Cert program. So talk a little bit about this really incredible program that you're responsible for, Paul.
Well, thank you, Matt. It is pretty exciting, and we can hand the teach pen, and with a few guidance steps, we can have students at a very young age moving the robot, and really that's the hook that gets them involved. Where they pick up a teach pen, it's like picking up a Game Boy or a PlayStation controller, and they know how to handle digital technology.
Right.
They've grown in a world of digital applications. They know when they turn their phone on how to connect to a network, how to share things from one phone to another. That type of technology is what we use in today's advanced manufacturing every day. The robots are controlled by a teach pendant, programs are written, and they interact with a lot of other technology. And our goal was, back in 2008, 2009, we were experiencing a recession in this country, but Fanuc, as a leading supplier of automation and robotics and CNC, we're working with companies, manufacturers, and that are producing products, goods, and moving products and goods and service. We saw what they had on their horizon, the things that they were planning 2, 3, 4 years out, and we knew what that would mean to the demands on workforce.
Sure.
So we began this proactive program to start partnering with schools to bring training closer to those customers, employers that were out there, to make sure that they had access not only for upskilling their own people, but for also building a pipeline of people that were interested in this industry. And we didn't want schools to use older, outdated, or donated equipment. We said we should be working with schools to teach on the latest and greatest technology. So we put together what we refer to as a Cert program, Certified Education Robot Training.
Okay.
Now it is more commonly referred to as a certification training through Fanuc.
Sure.
And that's because we've incorporated not only robot, but vision systems, collaborative robots, CNC programs, and we've partnered since that time. I think we started in 2010 with about 30 schools that year. We now have about 1,500 educational partners around the country.
That is just so impressive to see that kind of growth. And as Mike and I were talking about yesterday, nobody else was thinking this way, and nobody else was thinking about, I shouldn't say nobody, but nobody in the robotics world was thinking about how do we create this next generation of talent. Robots have just proliferated. We can talk a little bit about the growth there. But to think about 1,500 schools across the United States where students are learning robot programming, they're learning operations, they're learning macros and end-of-arm tools and jogging, and just all these really, really industry valuable skills, and they really are. We hear stories about students going through these courses in high school and walking out of their high school and getting a job in the manufacturing industry, all kinds of different opportunities, but I've got to believe you're seeing that all over the United States.
Yeah, very, very much so. Just about anywhere in the United States, I could tell you a success story with schools, with students that have either entered into the workforce right out of high school with the right certifications, the right credentials that align to the talent needs within industry, or it's helped them get into a training program at a community or technical college, or go right into an industry. And for us, we look at it this way: if we can help establish a program at a high school level, and a student really takes to robotics or CNC, and they say, boy, this is something I can get my arms around, I really love doing this,
right,
then we win. If they go through that program and say, boy, this isn't for me, then they win as well.
Exactly right.
And it helps kind of narrow or focus their attention on what type of career path they want to go into.
And it really does it highlights just the terrific careers that are available to students as they leave whatever their education pathway is. And I think we've really worked hard and we're making progress, I think, on changing the paradigm around manufacturing. And when a student can walk into a classroom and program a Fanuc robot, and it literally is the same robot that the manufacturing company down the road is using to assemble, to paint their products, to move material, it's exactly the same technology. Those students start to understand that manufacturing isn't just turning a wrench. It's not just standing at a production line. It's not your father or your grandfather's manufacturing world. And I would say probably more than any other organization anywhere, Fanuc has led and created those opportunities for students.
Yeah, it's when we go through and we work with schools, it's really about creating an opportunity and giving them a window or a view into what this industry really represents. And I think students don't know what they don't know. And for us to be able to bring that technology into a school and introduce them to it, they don't realize that automation is not taking away jobs. It's creating jobs, a vast a great number of jobs in many areas.
Right.
That it's not this dark, dirty, dangerous, monotonous environment. Automation helps solve those problems, but the need is far greater for the programmers, the technicians, the operators, all the way through to the engineers. And for us, when we do that, it helps students understand. They start to look at things different. The car they drive, the plane they fly in, the phone they use,
Sure.
the shoes, the packages that arrive from stores on their front porch. All of those industries are utilizing automation. And Fanuc is very engaged. We are the global leader in automation, and we want to help introduce students to what those careers look like.
The global leader in automation, introducing students to these incredible careers. And there, you touched on, they're different, right? So you've got robot technicians, you've got robot operators, you've got robot programmers. Those jobs are a lot more interesting, I would say, than maybe a typical assembly job. Nothing wrong with an assembly job. They pay better. They're probably safer than working with some of the traditional manufacturing technologies. So it really kind of it's the best of all worlds. It's a more interesting job. It pays better. It's a safer job. And so to your point, robots aren't taking jobs. They're providing additional jobs and providing really, really interesting jobs to these young people.
Yeah, when you think about it, we have one example here at the Student Summit where students are sorting plastic pills and they're trying to race the robot. And we're trying, it's a fun sell, but what we're demonstrating is, boy, I would hate to do this job all day long, picking up a part and loading a part or packaging a simple part.
Right.
It would be very boring. The robot can do that. But the person who programs that is very valuable.
Right.
And it's not just one technology. They'll learn robotics, but then there's all these peripheral devices that are working as part of a system. So we focused on that layered approach, is taking individuals from learning discretely the Fanuc technology for robot programming or CNC at an operator level.
Right.
And then we progress to a technical level where they're introducing vision systems and conveyors or PLCs. And then we get all the way up to more of a specialist level or an integration level. How do I put an entire system together?
Right.
Within each of those levels, there's multiple career paths. From simulation as a career, just doing everything in virtual or the digital twin type
Fascinating technology. Yep.
And I think if students start to see that, they can go look and picture themselves in these roles. And as you said, they're just not the manufacturing that they thought it was, or the perception that they may have heard other people talk about.
Right.
And part of our challenge is to change that perception, both with the student, but also the parent, the teachers, the administrators, as to what these are rewarding, exciting careers, high-paying careers, and we got to let students know about that.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that we do that, one of the ways we let students know about that, is by bringing authentic manufacturing technology right into the classroom. I think a lot of times when people think of the Fanuc Cert program, when they think about how we're teaching automation and robotics using the Fanuc platform, they're probably familiar or might be familiar with the Fanuc Cert cart, maybe the fenceless Cert cart, the 6-axis robot that the students are programming with like we said, the same teach pendant they're going to see when they get to manufacturing. The last several years, 5-6 years, you've really expanded beyond that initial product. Why don't you talk about some of the other great hands-on experiences and opportunities there are for students?
Yeah, it's our portfolio, if you will, of solutions that we help schools implement has grown drastically. So in addition to just a robot and an enclosure, we have an open fenceless cart that introduces area scanning technology. We have welding systems for teaching robotic welding. We have collaborative robots, which is, everybody's talking about collaborative robots.
Well, it really, and not to go off on a tangent, which means I'm about to, and then we'll come back to this, but being up in the, up on the main floor and just seeing that line of Fanuc's collaborative robots and thinking about even the CRs, the green ones that were maybe introduced 5-6 years ago, and now grown being well beyond that into the CRX, and seeing all those at once, it really gives you a sense for how far that product line has expanded. But I didn't want to take you off the topic.
Oh, no, not at all. The collaboratives are very exciting, very excited in schools. So we have the largest list or size range of robots, payloads, reaches within the collaborative series. And the CRX series introduces a lot of hand guidance built into the robot, easy tablet programming, really starting to address the ease of programming with a lot of these digital learners. And then the CR platform just gives us another extension of sizes and payloads and applications as well. So your tangent was good. It's a hot topic these days, but what we've looked at it is a lot of these schools that have implemented a robotics program maybe 5, 7, 10 years ago working with us have said, well, now what do I need to teach?
Sure.
So we get more into the systems. We have a connected smart manufacturing system where we're teaching how robots interact with different pieces of equipment, loading and unloading a machine tool, loading onto conveyors, into laser engravers, to packaging or palletizing or assembly type operations. So more of the application specific training, which becomes very critical, and that's what employers really desire.
Absolutely. Employers are looking for students that have had the exposure to this authentic manufacturing technology. You and I have talked, I don't know how many times, about how students' career choices are influenced, and it's all based on their interests and experiences when they're in middle school and high school. If a student isn't having that opportunity to interact with a Fanuc robot, which is well over half of the industrial robots in the United States are going to be Fanuc. If they're not getting an opportunity to interact with that technology, they have no idea that's a job that they could even have. And so that authentic experience and bringing that into the classroom is something that you've just excelled at.
Yeah, I think you shared with me in the past some surveys that were done, and it's all about experiences.
It is.
And, getting students to understand how this technology works, how it applies to math, how it applies to science, to physics. It's incredible. A lot of students may struggle with the concepts of how math is applied and when am I going to use these algebra or trigonometry formulas or geometry, and we show them how that's applied with robotics very simply. Just everything from simple Cartesian coordinates and moving a robot, and that bar chart or that graph now makes sense.
Exactly. I was just going to use that example. You think about, and I was never, I say this seems like on every episode, I was never a classroom learner. I just always had a hard time sitting still, probably not surprising, listening to a teacher lecture. It just wasn't my style of learning. But I could always learn hands-on. If you think about trying to, it almost seems corny that we would try to teach somebody X, Y, and Z axis on a flat piece of paper, right? I mean, how dumb is that, right? And so now we can go into a classroom with a robot, or for that matter, a CNC machine that is a real living example of what X, Y, and Z, what we call the Cartesian coordinate system is. So it's so important, this hands-on kinesthetic learning, and again, you're just leading on it. I'm looking forward to kind of talking about. We've talked about where you've been and kind of the evolution of the products and the solutions, the curriculum, which is really important to me.
Sure.
How do we bring this into a classroom and then ready a teacher to be able to deliver the learning in an effective fashion? What's on the horizon? We look out the next 2 or 3 years for Fanuc Cert. What kind of things are you thinking about? What do we need to bring to the classroom next?
Well, I think that the biggest thing that we're really focusing on, for us, the way that we look at training is there's really 3 critical elements for training to prepare people for careers in advanced manufacturing. And that's the understanding of automation, and that's what we focus on with the robot or the CNC. The understanding of process control, programmable logic controllers. So that's the integration of the control system. And then the third piece is the digital thread that weaves through all of technology today. So be it Ethernet networking or data analytics or cybersecurity, all of those elements are incorporated within these systems. So we have to prepare that generation to not only understand the automation, the controls, but the digital technology, which is really that IoT or industrial IoT or the Industry 4.0. And I'd say we're at like 4.8. And we're on the cusp of Industry 5.0 with machines working side by side with people.
Right.
And that's happening now. It's just getting more and more accepted and developed.
And as I like to put it, Industry Infinity 0.0. So
There
we're at this point in time where we will not have necessarily another industrial revolution. It's a really exciting time. The exponential economy is converged with manufacturing technology, and we're just on this ride of continuing evolution. And we've talked a lot this week about, it's been 4 years since we've been at IMTS, and so the growth in the technology, the digital solutions, the digital twins that are available, it's been exponential in these last 4 years. It's a really, really exciting time to be in the world of automation, to be in the world of Industry 4.0 and advanced manufacturing, and especially educating young people around these new technologies. So you've been at Fanuc. We've known each other probably now 7 years or so. You were at Fanuc for quite a while before my 7 years. So how long have you been at Fanuc?
I'm in my 23rd year.
23rd.
So.
And I'll just point out anecdotally, when we meet folks from Fanuc, it is amazing how often you'll hear, 20 years, 30. I mean, it's a company where people come and they stay. It's because of the culture. They get to work with great technology. You're treated incredibly well, I know, and it's just a great place to work. So a little plug for anybody that's in Rochester Hills, Michigan, and wants a really cool job. There's a great place right in your backyard. So great things going on at Fanuc. You've been watching this for 23 years now, and probably even longer than that. How has automation changed? How has it changed looking back 23 years and then compared to where we are now?
It's amazing the changes, and just thinking about that today and then looking back, automation was robots that had to go to a very very structured fixturing. The robots would always go to a position and pick and place things, and you'd have proximity switches to understand if the part was there.
Right.
What we've seen the evolution is the smart technology.
Yeah.
If you look at Fanuc, everything has the IR vision or R30IB controller. That I is intelligence.
Wow.
So the built-in intelligence capability, the vision systems have become more robust, and almost every other system we install, or every system, I should say, utilizes vision in some application, some way, shape, or form, whether it's just error proofing or it's doing vision guidance. And then force sensing, the ability to see and then now feel. So if we've got to mesh spline gears together or snap parts together, we can understand that force. Or if we're putting a finish on the side of an airframe or a vehicle on a body, or sanding a cabinet door, we can imply that force now. So sense of vision and feeling has become mainstream within automation, and now collaborative robots have just allowed you to interact more closely with this automation. So those evolutions have changed quite a bit over the time that I've been there, and I think there's just some incredible technology coming out in the near future on how this becomes even more adaptable to a greater number of industries. You see them now in the service industry and logistics and fulfillment industry, areas where we didn't think we could be in before, where the company may have really high mix, low volume.
Right.
Those are hard to automate, but when you can change the robot programs on the fly just from reading a barcode, it's incredible.
It really is. And you think, just to kind of put that into perspective for our audience, and both in terms of a demonstration and then the application, which you just alluded to, the Fanuc Experience Center in Rochester Hills, Michigan has to be seen to be believed. I mean, it's just the technology you have there, and one of many just amazing applications of advanced manufacturing technology, using a camera, using a vision system that can literally now, in a box of cantaloupes, discern between. I mean, it can really literally see. You think about a box of big crate full of cantaloupe. They all look the same. They're all about the same shape. And so discerning from one to another. In the past, you'd have to have a Cartesian coordinate system and say here's where this is going to be in space, and like you said, a prox sensor that's going to say, all right, here's where we're going, or it's either here or it's not. And now you're able to see that cantaloupe and pick it up with the vacuum gripper and move it to where you want to move it. Now the application, to your point, in the world of, for instance, contract machining, where it's a lot of low volume, high mix. So you've got, you can have a contract machining company that runs 10,000 different parts. How do you automate that? Well, you can start to answer that question, because now that my robot can see, it can discern parts in a container. It can find the right spot on in my case, on a coatings line, or maybe in a machine tool. It's going to be incredible how quickly we're going to allow not just the big boys in manufacturing, but really manufacturing of all types. It's the democratization of automation.
Oh, yeah. Well, and what's really interesting is, here we've had students of all ages visit the Student Summit, from middle school to high school to college students, and a lot of them, it may be the first time seeing an industrial robot. They have all different types of robotic programs, STEM programs out there. I talk to them, and what's challenging is they trying to get their arms around, well, how do you get into this? Boy, I don't know anything about conveyors or PLCs, and we take a step back and tell them, I said, well, you use one every time you go to the grocery store.
Right.
You know, you sit there and you walk up to the kiosk and you touch the screen to start, and you barcode and you scan the item, you put it on a conveyor, and it goes down the conveyor, it stops until somebody picks up that item.
Right.
There's a PLC behind it.
For
There's
sure.
a HMI, the human machine interface
There's
is
a photo
right
eye,
there.
light sensor, yeah.
And instead of having a robot, the person at the end of the conveyor is picking up that part and putting it into a bag.
Right. Today they are. Maybe
Today.
a year from now, maybe a robot,
A year
right?
from now, they could be automatically
Right.
packaged. But the idea is that this technology is out there already, and it's being utilized.
Right.
And I'll tell you, is nothing more exciting for me in being involved in this than to see the human element. What are we doing this for if we're not trying to impact lives and help create, better career opportunities? And I've seen a number of those that really just show you we're on the right track.
Yeah.
We had a high school student that earned their certifications in robot programming at a high school, was able to learn a few other items, PLC programming, safety programming, got a job right out of high school working for a major manufacturer.
Wow.
That manufacturer paid their tuition for that individual to go on and earn his associate's degree in
Awesome.
robotics and automation. He came back a year later, gave the superintendent a hug, thanked him for having the program, and said,
Wow.
I now make more money than my father.
Yeah, I mean, can't get any better than
Right,
that. I mean,
right.
when we talk about the American dream and securing
Yeah.
the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent, there's no better example
Right.
than a high school student who, right out of high school, making more money than his father, and having and going through his associate degree program, probably because he's working while he's doing that, not a lot of any debt.
Right.
And doesn't have to pay off all that college debt. The line I loved is that you can drive any pickup truck you want if you get a Fanuc
exactly.
certification.
There you go.
And right out of high school, and that's really a message for our students is this isn't, you can decide on that career path if whatever other pathway isn't for you and you want to go direct to workforce. That's not a life decision, right?
Right.
That is a decision for today. And if you decide you want to go back to school and continue your education, a lot of times your employer is going to pay for that. It's just,
And look at the value proposition of affording a college degree or further education is, coming out of high school, students have a lot of decisions to make.
right?
What are we going to do? And a lot of times students don't know exactly what they want to do, but they've been told a 4-year degree is the only solution.
Right.
And it is for a lot of students that really understand what they want to do, but it's not the only path. And I think we've, as parents and as educators, need to understand that, a skilled workforce is an exciting, rewarding, fulfilling career path that also pays extremely well.
Exactly. It's the
And
best of both
that
worlds.
a lot of these employers can bring you in and then help develop your education and have tuition reimbursement. You have no college debt.
Exactly. It's just a perfect pathway. So, boy, I could sit here and talk to you for another hour and a half, I think, Paul. So many great topics and didn't even get to half the things, so we'll have to have you back. And the 1 minute that we have left before the end of our episode here today, I want to ask you the same question we love to ask all of our other guests, and that is, if you had one piece of advice for a high school sophomore, what would that be?
Yeah, I knew you were going to throw this at me. This is a challenging one. I guess the one thing I would say is just ask a lot of adults, people that you think have interesting jobs. Ask them what they do, how did they get started, what was their career path like. Learn a little bit more about that. Don't be intimidated. Most people in the workforce, most adults are pretty eager to talk about their path and how they got to where they are. So I think that's one of the big things. And the other I would say is, if you have an opportunity to do an internship, do that every day, any time you can in your high school career. I think it should almost be mandatory. If I want to go into accounting, you should have to do an internship at accounting. I want to go into robotics, I should have to work for a company that's using them. To me, it's just speak to people and ask them about, what was their path. I
Absolutely.
think you'll be enlightened beyond belief at how much you can learn.
Great advice.
So.
Ask people about their path and do an internship. Have an authentic learning experience. Paul, you've impacted just so many lives in so many ways. It's absolutely amazing. You think about just on an exponential level, 1,500 Cert programs and reaching all of these students. The world is a much better place for Paul Aiello, and we really appreciate for having Paul Aiello.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I have a great team.
You do,
I have
indeed.
a phenomenal team, and I've always said I just bring in the smartest and best people. They make me look good.
Well, that's what it's all